5, 4, 3.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Monday Money Matters. Today, myself and Giovanni are here not to replace or substitute for Zach and Kimberly, because no one could ever do that. Zach and Kimberly are not here today, and Giovanni and I are running the show. Well, they say it, when cat's away, the mice will play. Welcome to the Daily Huddle. Today's Mondays, and I have a couple of quotes for you. The first is by this guy named Spike Milligan. Spike says, "All I ask is the chance to prove that money can't make me happy." And somebody rebutted that. That was Clinton Jones. Clinton Jones said, "I have never been in a situation where having money made it worse." Roll that video, Gio. Good morning, wherever you are and whoever you are. I bet you're interested in this statement. Learn to build massive wealth in the midst of uncertainties. Our guest today is here to guide us in a conversation anchored in that statement. Learn to build massive wealth in the midst of uncertainties. But before we get into that, I have a few questions I want to ask you to anchor you right here and to have you be present. Good morning, Andrea.
Morning, Zariel.
How are you? And who are you going to hug today?
I am the way I say I am, and today I'm powerful. And because I'm powerful, you know where I'm going to start. I'm going to hug myself. And I'm going to hug my daughters. Today is their first day back into college. So
that is awesome. Thank you for being here, Andrea. And thank you for creating being powerful. As you are, so is the rest of the world. You are that powerful. Good morning, Chase. Welcome to Money Mondays, brother.
Grand Rising. How are you?
I am awesome. And that's the way I say I am. But tell me, what time?
The time is now. Nothing else to say. The time is right now.
And what are you grateful for, Chase?
Today, I am grateful that my grandmother turned 90 yesterday, and I was able to be with her and just kind of give her all the love that she deserves after 90 years on the planet.
90. Now, that's a blessed life.
Powerful, powerful.
Thank you for being there with her. Thank you for loving her. Our next question goes to my dear friend and business partner, Giovanni Gonzalez. Gio, where are you?
Let me take a look. I am here.
You are indeed here. Move an inch and you'll still be right here. Giovanni, thank you for creating this with me. I have the pleasure of introducing our guest, Nora A. Nora is a financial strategist who believes in utilizing data and insight to create extreme wealth for families and businesses. Before she began implementing strategies for her selected clients, Gay built an MFS platform on the blockchain technology to facilitate access to money for individuals in the Caribbean. This effort followed her launch of a market research firm founded with a former classmate and Harvard alumna to help startups and mid-sized enterprises find their strategic positioning. She wrote a book entitled Get Minted. The book's written with humor, wisdom. Her book is fresh and inspiring call to action, particularly for millennials. Well, today you're here, so consider yourself a millennial. Her advice and her wisdom is targeted at us and at the Daily Huddle family. Good morning, Nora. Welcome back to the Daily Huddle. It is so great to have you.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Sorel. It's great to be here.
Well, I want the world to know just a little bit more about what I've said about you. Tell us, who is Nora A and what possessed you to write the book, Get Minted?
You know, who is Nora A? Well, I think now I have to do a bit of rebranding because since writing Get Minted, I am now a mother. So I go by that pretty much all day, every day, because another human depends on me. And I have other things that I'm thinking about, right? So legacy planning, legacy building. So as a parent, mother, I think a lot more deeply about some of the things that are written in Get Minted. What possessed me? It's interesting because I was moving from one office to another in Braintree, and I was receiving questions from clients about, what if you're not here? How do I do these things that you're teaching me about? If you're not here, how do I apply them? And I said, well, not only is that a valid question, I don't have the answer to it. And I hate not having certain answers, especially in my line of work. So I began to do a bit more research on how I could be with my clients even when I'm not there. So it was either a manual or a lengthier version of a manual. And we decided to come up with having a financial advisor right in their back pockets. So that's how Get Minted came about. And it was interesting, the moment that we were finishing up, COVID-19 hit. So it was fitting to say that we were teaching people how to build wealth amid uncertainties.
And COVID brought a lot of uncertainties, and you're saying that Get Minted was meant to be a financial advisor in your back pocket.
Yeah.
Financial advisor on your coffee table. So there's this idea, when I look at the title of the book, it's how to build massive wealth in the midst of uncertainties. There's the word massive, there's the word uncertainties. And sometimes book titles are written in such a way to capture attention.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you take us beyond the title of the book, how to build massive wealth, and focus just a bit for us on the word massive.
Mm-hmm.
You're talking about building massive wealth for individuals, entrepreneurs, families, your friends, your clients. What are some of the strategies that you rely on to assist your clients in building such wealth?
Mm-hmm. So one of the first things that we look to do for every single one of our clients, and I will take you one step back and say, I have met with over 50 clients in the past year. And I keep it at that number because I can't do any more individually, right? But I'm talking just individually. I'd say about 1% comes to me ready to say, if anything were to happen to me, I'm covered on all fronts. So when we're talking about massive wealth, we're talking about accumulation, but also decumulation. So the ability to create wealth is one thing, but to maintain it and then pass it on however you please is another. So only 1% of the people I've met with can actually say, I'm all set on all fronts. And at that point in time, I shake their hands and I say goodbye. We'll probably meet at some point if life changes, but for now, I can't do anything for you. You've got it all covered. Now, the strategies that we look at, and this is some of the flaws that we look for if someone already has a plan. The first thing is diversification. How well is your portfolio diversified? Now, I'm not talking about the stock market where your money is, in the stock market and whether or not that portfolio is well balanced. I'm talking about having different pockets of money in the event that your finances were to come into, say, if you were to experience a life event. The reason I'm picking my words very carefully is because I really wouldn't want to turn this dim for everyone. But if you were to experience a life event, we want to make sure that you are covered. So market volatility doesn't impact you. Things like inflation doesn't impact you as much, although it's going to impact you. You can influence it, but you can't control inflation as much as people would like to think. And I want to make sure that your market correlated assets, when they are performing well, that's not when you want to be messing with the strategies in place, right? You have money set aside where you can pull from different levers, if you will. I think of it as a triangle. So if you think of a triangle, at the top of the triangle, you have all of the liquid asset, things that you need really quickly to make decisions.
Mhm.
Gas money, your house or the equity on your home would be there because within a year you could turn that into cash, right? On the left-hand side, you have employer-sponsored vehicles, your 401ks, your 403bs, 457s, even your traditional IRA would be in that hand side because you'll pay taxes at a later time, but right now you're not paying taxes on them. As a matter of fact, they can lower your taxable income. And on the right-hand side, you will have your tax-free as long as you live within the contracts that you're signing. So your Roths would be in there. Your if you have access to municipal bonds, they'll be in there. If you have access to, say, your cash value life insurance policy would be in there as well, because these monies, as long as you live within the means of the contracts, well, you will not incur taxes on the dollars you put in. Does that mean you won't be taxed on on anything you make, right? So this is the very first step we take in identifying whether or not someone is on the road of creating massive wealth. Because the last thing we want is for you to be building your pie and an event comes around and washes it all away, like we've seen in 2008, 2009.
Yeah, so the triangle sounds great. Liquid assets on the top, tax deferred assets on the right or left, and tax assets on the other end of the triangle. And as you're creating this, I'm hearing a bunch of words and I'm saying, oh my God, there are probably a lot of people just like me listening to this and are thinking, Nora, could you boil it down for me, maybe in 3 to 4 sentences to
Mhm.
help me get the strategy and also help me get the urgency of actually establishing such an approach?
Well, when you think about your financial house, I want you to think about your defensive assets and your offensive assets. If anything were to happen, you're a money-making machine. The greatest asset you have is your ability to make money, right?
Hmm.
And so if anything happens to that asset, you as a machine, you want to ensure that everything else keeps rolling. So if you were to become ill, for instance, life doesn't stop. You can continue living and your wealth is not depleted.
Mm.
Whatever you've built isn't depleted, it continues to grow, or at least it waits for you to get to the point of working again. So
So,
that's the whole idea behind the strategy.
yeah. So I've never really thought of it that way, that my biggest asset is actually my ability to generate an income. Are you pointing directly to what's known as disability insurance or some other vehicle there?
Well, I'm talking about all your protection plans together.
Mhm.
And that's why when I sit with clients, I tell them, think of me as your quarterback. Send me everything you have in place currently. What is part of your financial house? Whether or not that is your employer-sponsored disability income protection or your car insurance. I review everything. I'm not a producer in those areas. However, I do know how to read them, and I can tell you whether or not something fits well in your goals or objectives.
So tell me, with all of that, having written the book, Get Minted, two things. How did writing the book change or transform you? That's one, on the one hand. And two, what's the biggest lesson you learned from actually going through and completing that project?
How did that change me? Well, I'd like to say the reason I began implementing financial plans for families, I was working on the corporate side for a long time, but never with families. The reason I chose to go that route is because of a friend of mine's experience. She and her husband were going through a life-changing event. He had become ill and they had an 11-month-old.
Mm.
Unfortunately, he passed away after 9 months of going through that, right? And one of the things that I learned is that they didn't have the proper planning in place. All corporations, they have plans in place, risk management plans, succession plans. Unfortunately for them, they didn't have it. And that was one of the reasons I wanted to go through the process of completing Get Minted. And her story is a bit in the book as well. So going through that process helped me realize one of the things that I said that I would realize, which is impacting more people than I could, even in my practice.
Mm.
So that came with a lot of, every time I pick up the book, I think of her story. And every time someone tells me that they've read the book, I think of her story and the pact I made with myself to impact other people's lives positively in that manner. So I'm grateful for that. The second question that you have on, what's the biggest lesson, right? Was that question?
Yeah.
Writing isn't an easy process, right? It's especially putting ideas on paper that you've only not theorized, but you only know in practice. So you do them because they've become second nature and you've got processes in place. So translating that into something that people can use and apply in their lives, that's the most difficult part. So the biggest lesson for me is, if you can't explain it in such a way that a 5-year-old can understand it, then you probably don't understand it well enough. So that's one of the things I learned. I had to sit with myself and ask the question, do you understand this well enough to transmit it to others so that they can apply it?
So in a way, writing Get Mentored was like, well, I don't know. Was it kind of like having a baby?
Yeah, birthing a baby.
Nora, I'm enjoying this conversation. I'm learning a whole bunch, and we could go on forever, but I'd love to open it up for the folks who've joined us here to ask you questions. Maybe they want to get to know a little more about you, or maybe there's something regarding the strategies that you've bubbled up that's creating either an epiphany or a question in their mind. So the floor is open, and Nora is all yours. Go ahead, Chase.
Good morning, Nora. Nice to meet you. Thank you so much for being here with us today. It's so nice to see you. The question that I have for you, and I always like to ask this to people who write books about topics and so on and so forth, is if you had to give 1 or 2 pieces of advice about money or about wealth that has followed you up until you've written the book and afterwards, something that you've taken from from a long time ago until now that's still true, what would you say?
Your financial plan is as accurate as the data that creates it. There's no room for emotion. There's certainly no room for illusion. I know people write their financial plans, their budgets with, wishes, things they wish would happen. But be honest with where you are, be in the now, and create said plan. Do not create it with what you hope would happen or what you think will happen in the future. So these are the things that I learned. And when I see financial plans, that's one of the things that I ask my clients, what headspace were you in when you created this?
Okay.
And the second piece of advice is 2 sets of eyes are always better than 1. And that's why my clients come to me for an audit. You wouldn't believe it. Nearly 70% of my clientele is from audits. So I audit other people's work. And that's not to say I want to badmouth other professionals. No. I want to provide people with a second set of eyes so that they can plug in the holes that they may have in their current financial plan. So again, 2 sets of eyes are better than 1.
Thank you.
No problem.
Chase, thank you. CC, you have your hand up. It's your turn.
Thank you. Good morning, and thank you for being here. I had a question. How do we get in touch with you to do an audit on our, own personal insurances so that we can identify whether or not these insurances are applicable to today? How would we
So,
get in touch with you? Okay.
I can give you two methods of contacting me, but let's see, how do I best do it, Surab?
You can tell me what to give to them and I'll give that to them.
Oh, and my email is a great place to start. You can email me and do mention where we met and a little bit about who you are and what you're trying to achieve. And I'd be more than happy to connect with you.
Awesome. And I have placed Nora's email address in the chat. And so feel free, CC, to contact Nora at your leisure, okay? Good deal. Gio, I noticed you had your microphone off. Would you like to jump in and create something?
Sure, but go ahead and take Laura.
Okay.
No.
Laura.
Yes. Greetings, everyone. Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning, Laura.
Yes.
Monday.
Thank you. Happy Monday. Gratitude. Thank you so much, Nora, for bringing this conversation. And what I'm getting from it is the prophetic nature. Just to be sure, did you say you were writing the book before COVID?
Yes.
Yes. And you were writing this book about how to, well, create wealth during the time of uncertainties.
Yes.
Okay. And then the uncertain times came, COVID came.
Mm-hmm.
But that is what is just coming up in my mind about divine timing and the prophetic nature of your work. And another answer I got from your conversation is how to find or how to identify the ideal reader when you're writing your book.
Mm-hmm.
Because you spoke about your friend and the impact that their event had on you when you wrote the book.
Mm-hmm.
So that is what I got from the conversation, is how you had or you identify your ideal reader in your friend. With that, I'm complete and I thank you so much.
Thank you. I appreciate that, Laura.
Okay, thanks.
Good morning, Laura, and thank you. Gio, take a minute.
Okay, perfect. Laura, thank you for being, Nora, thank you for being here. And so great. I wanted to ask you, there's this aspect of strategy that you were pointing to, and then also the reason that something poked at you that you said, I'm gonna write a book about my experience and how I serve others and how others can benefit. And I wanted to know, using this context of massive wealth, I was wondering, what was your moment of epiphany or moment of insight or that moment of clarity when you said to yourself, I want to do that for myself. I want to build massive wealth for myself. But I imagine that something happened and something you said, I want this for me too. And I was wondering if you wanted to share a little bit about that.
Well, the moment for me happened way before the book idea, right? The idea for a book came a few years later. I think I was completing my master's in finance and reading about the financial collapse, 2008, 2009. I was just entering college at that point in time when the collapse was happening. So I didn't think, well, this is going to impact me in the future. But fast forward 5 years later, I'm thinking, wow, this had a profound impact on what I can and cannot do. And as a millennial, I began to think about, oh, I'd like to invest in real estate. I'd like to purchase homes. How do I do it? So a lot of questions were going through my mind, and I'm thinking about all these. It's interesting, as I speak to you, I'm sitting, in New York's financial district, right? And I'm thinking, wow, these individuals here have had a profound impact on my life and what I can and cannot afford to do. I must do something about that, and I've got the power to do so. Now, where do I find the knowledge that's applicable to me? And a few months later, I began working with corporations doing just that, financial strategizing and utilizing a lot of data. And I said to myself, well, if data rules the world, then what data is in my life that I can influence in order to change the outcomes for myself and for my family? So the epiphany came in the process of doing, of going through the process of learning and doing. So I'm sorry, it got a bit louder here. So that actually was the moment for me. Yeah. So it's a set of processes that led to this.
Got it, Nora. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for sharing your life with us, and sharing a little bit about your book and a little bit about your journey and how you serve others. And thank you for dedicating your life for that.
Thank you so much for having me.
Life, time at the Daily Huddle just flies by. So we're going to now wrap up. Do you have your last words for today?
Last words for today for me?
Yes.
We talk about wealth we just talked about wealth in the strictest sense of the word, right? Money. But to me, now it's so much more than that. So the legacy building and planning that I shared before, I've incorporated more into it. When I think of wealth now, I think of family, I think of health, I think of the ability to spend more time doing some of the things I really enjoy, which is participating in national events or partaking in volunteer activities. So be sure to expand the idea of wealth to much more than the fiat money.
Thank you, Nora. I love that. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you all for being here. I think Sorrell's signal just went down, so we lost him for a second, so he'll probably be back. But before he gets back, we're gonna go ahead and wrap up. Once again, Happy New Year. Hope you have a phenomenal year. And as you roll the week, remember our 8 tenets to build wealth: have sexy skin and have sexy body and live like a renegade for the rest of your life. The first one is love. Love always, stress less. There's only one life, might as well stress less. Laugh out loud, stretch your cheeks, stretch them. It works for your wrinkles. Just stretch your cheeks. Eat more plant-based, get closer to the trees, hug the trees, eat the trees. Move every day, 10 minutes in the morning, right before breakfast, 10 minutes in the afternoon, right after lunch. Move every day. Give what you have. Give your jealousy away, your resentment away, your money. Give. And always remember to sleep. At least 7 hours. Sleep 7 hours. If you can't sleep, read a book. Don't put an audiobook. Just read it. You'll see your brain will be like, okay, I'm going to sleep. And then finally, very important, remember to check your assumptions. Check yourself before you wreck yourself. I love you. Sorrel loves you more. Have a phenomenal week. See you guys tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. Eastern time. Bye-bye, everybody.
One love, guys. One love. Have an amazing day.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Uh-oh. I'm going to do my video. Never mind.